Tyrion Lannister, the most intelligent and cunning character in Game of Thrones. He's quick-witted, calculated, and always one step ahead of his enemies.
You're a clever man. But you're not half as clever as you think you are.
Still makes me more clever than you.
I mean, if there was a true top 10 moments of this show, Tyrion must be directly involved in at least half of them. We have the Battle of Blackwater Bay, Joffrey's wedding, his trial speech, killing Tywin, and the list goes on. Tyrion can be a shitty person at times due to his upbringing, but unlike his father and sister, he has ambitions that reach beyond the Iron Throne. Tyrion values knowledge and wants to prove to himself and to others that he transcends his dwarf condition, that he should be treated with the same dignity and respect as any other Lannister. He works hard for this respect and even puts his life on the line for it. He endures a multitude of different struggles grappling with love, family, and leadership, which all culminate in him remaining that smarty pants character that we love, but with real character building experiences under his belt. He was a brilliant character with a fascinating point of view, and to see him on screen was a pleasure. So, what the fuck happened? How does Tyrion become the dumbest and most inconsequential character in the show in only like 2 or 3 seasons? This all starts in season 5 when Tyrion meets Daenerys Targaryen. One could say that after killing Tywin, Tyrion's story was pretty much complete in a lot of different ways. I feel as if the show just couldn't find a natural way to remove him from the story, or at least decrease his presence in the story, because as I stated earlier, he is directly involved with many major plot points in the series. By this point in the show, Dany is quite literally the only person he has not crossed paths with, and she doesn't know anything about him other than the fact that he is a Lannister, and literally questions whether she should have him killed right here in this moment. Tyrion proceeds to brag about the fact that he technically killed both of his parents and has a shit relationship with his family, so therefore he can be trusted. Dany sits with this for a while and then later offers Tyrion the chance to advise her on her conquest for the throne. Tyrion questions Dany's resolve and says that maybe she should stay put in Meereen, where she is already loved and hailed as a conqueror. Dany pushes back on this idea, saying that she will take what is hers and blah blah blah, you know how she gets. She vows to break the wheel of powerful houses trampling over the common folk, and this has Tyrion completely sold on going to her side. The next thing we see Tyrion take on is running Meereen while Daenerys is gone. Daenerys and her camp are attacked by the Sons of the Harpy during a ceremony at the fighting pits. All parties almost die until Drogon shows up and subdues the enemy, ending with him flying away with Daenerys. This leaves Daenerys' position in Meereen vulnerable, as she is literally not there, and has no ETA for her return. Jorah and Daario go to retrieve her, while Tyrion, Varys, Grey Worm, and Missandei stay to run Meereen and keep the Sons of the Harpy at bay. This is Tyrion's moment to shine, is what it looks like. He is finally in a position of true power and has been given the chance to prove himself a viable asset, right? Well, let's see what happens while Daenerys is away and Tyrion is running things. Firstly, the fleet that she had acquired by this point is completely burned, and this happens while Tyrion and Varys are just casually taking a fucking stroll. Why is there not constant surveillance on this extremely precious fleet that is literally the only way Daenerys will be able to start her conquest? There's no way, with the experience Tyrion has and the combined efforts of Varys and Grey Worm, that no one could have foreseen a move like this. After the Sons of the Harpy blatantly attempted to assassinate Daenerys in a public setting, what makes them think that it is not open warfare by this point? Grey Worm straight up says that they're looking for who did it, but no one saw anything.
You're funny.
Yeah, that's what happens when things are not being guarded. Didn't Daenerys buy like 10,000 fucking Unsullied? She couldn't spare 5 of them to keep watch over her fleet? Anyways, there goes her fleet. During the meeting about what they should do about this, Tyrion is informed by Varys that outside of Meereen, the slavers have recaptured all of their territory and are funding the Sons of the Harpy. Tyrion immediately ignores this vital information and turns his attention to the dragons, making the case that they don't do well in captivity. When asked how does he know this, he makes one of his infamous bullshit one-liners.
I drink and I know things.
You're funny.
Well, yes, Tyrion does know a lot, but how would he know more about dragons and what they are comfortable with compared to Missandei, who essentially raised these dragons along with Daenerys? It's a great and easy guess that no creature of that size would do well in captivity. Doesn't take a real genius to know that. If he knows so fucking much, why doesn't he provide a real solution to the issues mentioned earlier, like Daenerys not having a fleet anymore, and the slavers slowly regaining their control and influence in the region? Does Tyrion really want to be here? I'm starting to question this whole idea idea that he's really here to help. Seems like he's here to just drink and vibe out. This whole meeting seems like an excuse for him to just go meet the dragons because he's just like us and needs any reason to have them on screen. I guess all that other important stuff can wait. Let's just go play with dragons. Actually, wait, so you're telling me Tyrion fucking Lannister, the guy who just narrowly escaped King's Landing with his head still attached, is now placing himself in what may be the most dangerous environment imaginable in order to do what? Take the chains off the necks of fucking dragons.
You're funny.
They're still literally locked up in a basement. This risk was truly not worth the reward. Why the fuck would he do this? This is extremely dangerous, and he should not have survived it, to be quite honest. I guess he managed to pass the vibe check with Viserion and Rhaegal in all of 10 seconds. Or maybe they just thought he was adorable. I don't know, but it is stated that they are hungry and upset ever since Daenerys left. But even before this, Daenerys was literally using them to interrogate and devour prisoners. So they are in a pretty volatile state, which is why no one has really tried to engage them. Even Missandei, who canonically should be the only one capable of actually interacting with the dragons, but I digress. This was dumb. This was really fucking dumb. Yes, great scene for the dragons, but on second thought, you realize how much Tyrion put his life on the line just to have this moment. And I mean, for God's sakes, he doesn't even bring Missandei just in case he needs her to subdue them. He actually brings Varys instead, who just stands there and watches. Anyways, dragon lives matter. The next meeting between Team Daenerys takes place, and this time, while Varys is out gathering useful intel on the Sons of the Harpy and who's behind that operation, Tyrion's inside trying to get Grey Worm and Missandei to show him their freaky side. He tries to get them to play the drinking game that he played with Shae and Bronn, and they both decline because they don't drink. Tyrion then proceeds to try and force them to drink and play, and it's just like, my guy, are you fucking cool? I get it, we've all been through stuff, but for the love of God, put the fucking wine down. Maybe the writers have gone a little too far with this whole Tyrion's a raging alcoholic thing. Even when he's in the presence of two people that don't share his language or culture, he's trying to coerce them into drinking when there are literally 10 other majorly important things to be discussing. What have they done with my Tyrion Lannister? Anyways, Varys tells them that the Masters have taken up arms against Daenerys and Astapor, Yunkai, and Volantis. Grey Worm insists that they launch another assault on the Masters, this time ending the conflict for good. Missandei agrees. Tyrion shows restraint as it seems he is finally using his brain again. He asks who would stay to defend Meereen if a military campaign begins. Ultimately, the team decides to try diplomatic matters before violence, and Tyrion has the idea to send a message through one of Varys' birds. And this does happen. Tyrion invites the Masters to Meereen in order to discuss solutions, despite Grey Worm and Missandei strongly urging him not to. There's a very interesting dilemma presented here, where Tyrion, having never been a slave, seems to think that he can negotiate with slavers. Grey Worm and Missandei stand passionately opposed to this idea and know the Masters must be struck down. The show just keeps going out of their way to show us that Tyrion is a shitty person now. Great. So how do these negotiations go? Well, Tyrion is drinking, no surprise here. Yes, I'm going to call out when I feel he is unnecessarily drinking, because you have to think, he's a character in a show, meaning someone is handing him this cup in every scene. Who believes that any sane man with any modicum of respect would be constantly downing cups of wine like this? He's already a dwarf and struggles to gain respect amongst men. There was no need to make him an alcoholic as well. Can he love wine? Absolutely. Does he need it every single fucking time we see him? No. It just makes him less and less serious. You'll see. But anyways, he asks the slavers what they want, and they tell him they want Dany and her camp to leave Slavers Bay so that they can continue their work as usual. This obviously doesn't sit well with Missandei and Grey Worm, the two former slaves present in the room. Tensions begin to rise between the opposing parties, and yet again, Tyrion jumps in to show how insensitive and detached from this whole conflict he really is. He jumps in to tell the slavers that they don't need slaves to make money, and he's grown up richer than all of them without slaves. He then comes up with what may be the second dumbest plan ever devised in Game of Thrones. Second to sending a fucking cavalry charging into a frozen abyss. Tyrion decides to allow the slavers 7 years to quote-unquote end the practice.
You're funny.
I think Missandei's face says it all. What? He then follows up and says that in exchange for this grace, they will cut off their support for the Sons of the Harpy. He cannot honestly think that this is a fair trade-off. You're allowing them 7 years to essentially continue their way of living and amass enough resources to challenge you, all so that they can stop funding a group that they don't even openly claim to have ties to. He has no rapport with these men other than literally being bought and sold by one of them, and he trusts that they will follow through with this fucking plan. He then offers them each their own whore as a parting gift. Fucking wow. This is actually the worst thing he's ever done. And the people of Meereen are quite literally outside waiting to tell him this. They ask him why would he invite their enemies into the city, and he goes on some tangent about how he's not their ruler and he's basically just one of them. I don't know if he thought that that would hit, but it didn't hit at all, and they proceed to question his authority in this matter. He insists that he has the right to have these negotiations because Daenerys chose him as an advisor.
You're funny.
Yeah, Tyrion, but she didn't make you a fucking hand or even get to spend a whole week with you. You have no fucking idea what you're doing and are actively making the growing civil war in Meereen much worse. Tyrion further intensifies the divide between the people of Meereen, and even brings division into Daenerys' camp with his passive approach to real personal issues. Grey Worm and Missandei are damn near begging him to listen to their counsel, and he just keeps making it seem like he literally knows everything. I wonder how that will play out for him. He does attempt to have a good idea with the Red Priestess thing. He essentially wants the people of Meereen to credit the temporary peace they are experiencing to Daenerys, but because she's not there, it's hard to control what the public perception is. So they bring in the Red Priestess to go around spreading the word that Dany is the one who was promised to lead them out of slavery and against the forces of evil. This is one of the moments Tyrion actually has a brilliant idea without getting anyone pissed off, maybe excluding Varys, who is now going on a mission to make new friends for Daenerys out in Westeros, leaving Tyrion alone to deal with the shit show that is Meereen. We return to Meereen not much later to see Tyrion yet again attempting to persuade Grey Worm and Missandei to drink. After so much coercion, they finally give in, but Tyrion goes as far as to use emotional manipulation on them and says that if they don't drink, they are disrespecting the queen. It's obviously lighthearted in nature, but he knows that these two take those types of things very seriously, so he uses that to get what he wants out of them. What an awful person he's become. But he then talks about how he wants to own his own vineyard someday so that he can make his own wine, and he starts telling jokes, and it's just all fun and lighthearted up here. But yet again, while Tyrion is off fucking around and drinking, there are serious, important things happening outside in Meereen. The Masters have pulled up in full force to take Meereen back. Seems Tyrion was wrong all along. Big shocker. And it didn't even take them 7 years to prove this to him. They immediately took the chance to take Meereen back after giving them the false impression of peace. This moment alone makes Tyrion look like the dumbest advisor that has ever lived. He was warned so many various times that what he was doing was dangerous and would not solve anything, and he ignored all of that counsel. Now what will he do to fix this major mess that he's created? Well, absolutely fucking nothing, because there really isn't anything that he can do. He made this impulsive decision that will impact people's lives and safety, and doesn't even have the capacity to stand on the front line and fight for these choices. So yeah, now Meereen is being sacked because of a dwarf who's been there for all of a week. To put a nice bow on what happens in Meereen, Dany comes back and saves the day. She did not need Tyrion here at all because the outcome likely would have occurred whether he was present or not. Dany destroys the Masters and ends up replacing her destroyed fleet with their own. The only part Tyrion plays in this is allowing the Masters to come vibe out in Meereen for a day and subsequently revealing the weakness in Dany's camp, which she then has to come back and fix all on her own accord. He adds nothing of value to this whole arc, really. His biggest accomplishment during this whole thing was making Missandei and Grey Worm drink with him, which was seemingly his only goal the entire time. What does the Meereen arc reveal to us about the direction of Tyrion's character? That he is on a steady decline and he doesn't do too well away from King's Landing. Tyrion is completely out of his element in Meereen. And just because he is granted a title and a position while there does not mean he did anything to earn it. Because as a matter of fact, he didn't. He is literally put in charge of Meereen due to his knowledge and experience in Westeros. That makes no sense at all. And he tried to deal with the slavers like the great houses deal with one another, and it blew up in his face. Though he ends up on the winning side of this conflict, he did nothing to help secure this victory and almost doomed the whole operation with his clumsiness. When all this concluded, we see him set sail for Westeros with Dany. Certainly he will make up for all this buffoonery when he gets home, and he can make full use of his knowledge, right?
You're funny.